Okay, so I'm recording this video on July 2. I'm going to upload this video on July 4. And the reason why I'm making this video is because to celebrate the United States of America 250th anniversary. So what you can tell by the title, I'm going to try my best to explain as much of American history as possible. I'm not going to talk about it being colonized because I'm not going to get into that. But I am going to talk about not much about the French and Indies War, but talk about the radio and talk about how the American Revolution started and how the American Revolution will happen, radio and all pretty much try to explain all the wars and try to explain all the presidents, what all of them had done or everything we don't know that I've done. So, anyways, we'll get started. So, first off, the British and the French, they were enemies. If you watch history, you will know that they didn't get along a lot. Um, in 1753 or 1754, in the 1750s, the French and Indies War happened between the two countries, and it was also called the 7 Years' War. And mostly happened in America, and Canada modeled the United States of America. And the British, they end up winning 1760s, and that had the British to gain pretty much take over Canada because at the time the French had control over Canada, but now the British have control over Canada because they won that war. So, anyways, the thing did, this war cost the British a lot of money, and they got the war in debt, so they need money. So what they do, they signed so in 1764, 1765, around that time, the British signed the Stamp Act, well, and doesn't mean for the citizens. It's designed it for the colonists, the same colonists that colonized this country and Canada for them. Well, mostly the colonists in America here, but so this makes the colonists not so happy. So they start doing protests, boycotts, and saying taxes without rebel assistance. And these were taxes on like stamps, tea, coffee, pretty much everything. And so that's why they were doing these protests, taxes without rebel assistance. And later on, 1768, the British, they sent thousands of soldiers to this little town in Massachusetts to make sure nobody rebel and all that wonderful stuff. But on March 5, 1770, that some drama finally happened because people there will start to fighting the soldiers in the streets. Hundreds of people were crowds and were throwing stuff at the British. They were trying to beat the British up, and so the British opened fire into the crowd, killing 5 people. It was called the Boston Massacre. And now this Boston Massacre, people never forget about it, especially the colonists and later on the founding father, Samuel Adams. He kept mentioning it. He never let people forget about it, about what the British has done. So, but that's not all. So, later on in 1773, the colonists, Georgia by Indians, like Native Americans, and went to the Boston Harbor where those ships, and all those ships were tea. So they got onto those ships and dumped all the tea into the Boston Harbor. That was called the Boston Tea Party. So that raised some tensions and what finally made the American Revolution was started. It started in April of 1775. The British sent an army to a town in Massachusetts, and that started the American Revolution War. And that battle was the Battle of Lexington, and I forgot the second half of the name, but it was mostly called the Battle of Lexington. So that's the fourth battle of the American Revolution War, and we showed the British that we are not gonna give up without a fight. So the American Revolution War had already begun. Um, and later on, there were some battles, but the major part is on July 4, 1776, colonists and people that want independence from the British, they got all together and they signed the Declaration of Independence, which was made by Thomas Jefferson and was supported by all the colonists, and the founding fathers, and they all signed it. Over 50 people signed it. So that officially means the United States of America became a country on July 4, 1776. Now, later on in August, the Declaration of Independence was signed by Congress. So I know it's a little confusing how that works, but yeah, July 4, 1776, we gained independence from the British Empire by signing the Declaration of Independence, and about a month later in August, Congress signed it, like make it finalized, I guess you could say. We signed the final text. I don't really know the details, so I'm sorry if I'm making you all confused. But anyways, later on December 25, 1776, our army was led by George Washington, and colonists was a founding father, pretty much the main founding father. Him and a couple of our soldiers with James Monroe, who was holding the American flag. They got onto these boats and crossed the Delaware River because they wanted a surprise attack on the British, and they were successful. The British were shocked, and we lose no one. And by the way, these soldiers, they have no military, most of them have no military experience whatsoever, and the ones they do barely got into actual military battle, so they pretty much have no experience in it, and some of them won't even wearing shoes, so that means when they walk in snow or stuff like that, their feet will get frostbite and will bleed while they walk. But anyways, with us crossing the Delaware River, which at times that river was at 0 degrees, we were able to easily won that battle and shock the British. Anyways, later on in 1781, we got the French to help us, and we already have countries help us, like Morocco. Morocco is the first country that recognized our independence. We had Prussians and German soldiers, which they're pretty much the same thing, but still, so now I think these Prussian soldiers have been helping us since like the start, but yeah, in 1781 we got the French to help us, and we already have the Prussians to help us, and And the final major battle of the entire American Revolution War happened in 1781, and I think it was the Battle of Yorktown. And with us, and the French, the Prussian troops, we crossed the bridge. Now, we do a lot of other battles, but finally, September 1783, the United States of America and the British Empire signed a treaty. Now, they call it the Treaty of Paris, but I'm a little suspicious about that. But anyways, they signed the Treaty of Paris, officially ending the American Revolution War, and the British officially recognized us as an independent country. Okay, so moving on now, to the well, after the American Revolution War, George Washington was leading an army during the entire war. He people want him to become a king because he pretty much have us gain independence. He led our army do everything. His soldiers love him, the people love him, the government love him, everyone love him. So they want him to become a king, but he said no to power, and he went back home. But later on, they in 1787, I believe, 1789. I'm sorry, I know I'm getting some dates messed up. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, around that time, he became the first president of the United States of America. In my opinion, the best president of this country ever in history. No other president would be better than George Washington. But anyways, so he ran for 2 terms, and so he was in office for 8 years straight. But the thing is, Congress and the government, everybody want him to be president forever until he died, but he said no to power. Now, the reason why he said no to power to be king or to be a president forever until he died is because he said because the American Revolution will happen, this revolution will happen, we want to get free. We want to escape from the king, and we did. So if I become king, what's the point of this war? And he makes some good points there. So after his second term ended, he left, and later on, his vice president, John Adams, which was the colonist and founding father, and was doing speeches about the Declaration of Independence, supporting it. He became the second president, and John Adams, he's the first president to live in the White House, because during George Washington's 2 terms, though I think the White House was being built in George Washington's second term, but wasn't finished until John Adams' term. But then when John Adams and his wife Abigail Adams, they both moved into the White House. Now we're still under construction, but you can start living in it, I guess. Also, John Adams, he's the first vice president to become a president. You think about it, because he was vice president for George Washington, and he went on to become president. So I thought that was really interesting. But anyways, during John Adams' term, he only served 1 term. During John Adams' term, like at the end of his term, in December 1799, George Washington, he was riding on his horse, and cold, and when it was cold, and he got sick. So his doctors, they were trying to, keep him alive and get him to feeling better, but they did something called bloodletting, where they will cut your arm and let all your blood come out, because they thought they were hurt, but that does make the problem worse. And And I think Walsh can lose about 80 or 60 to 80 ounces of his blood. So finally on December 14, 1799, he have a throat infection. Sorry, I know I'm getting confused then, but anyways, he got an infection in his throat called epiglottitis. Nowadays it could be cured by antibiotics, but the medical terms weren't as good back then as it is now. But anyways, with the blood letting the infection in his throat on December 14, 1799, he passed away, making him the first president to die, and he was 67 years old. He would have turned 68 in February, but since he died about 2 months early, he didn't make it to his 68th birthday, and his final words were "taste well." But anyways, later on, there was the election of 18, and also people, they were devastated by George Washington because he pretty much created this country, so everyone was devastated. But anyways, next up was the election of 1800, and here then John Adams, he was running for a second term, but Thomas Jefferson, which was a founding father, he was also running for president. So both of them, which remember, they were actually buddies. They were both friends, but now they become arch enemies because of the election of 1800. And the election of 1800, Thomas Jefferson won, and in 1801, Thomas Jefferson became president. I believe in 1801, or maybe, no, in 1801 he became president. But then now we have, but the rivalry continued, but finally, decades later, John Adams sent a letter to Thomas Jefferson, and they decided to be friends again. But the crazy part is, on July 4, 1826, both of them were sick for a couple weeks, or about a week now, and both of them were dying. And on July 4, 1826, Thomas Jefferson, he passed away. And a couple hours later, John Adams, he also passed away, and his wife's words, and Thomas Jefferson's wife's words were, "No doctor, nothing more." Well, his wife's words before that was, is it the 4th yet? And he was saying that to his family and his friends, and he held on a little more longer because he wanted to die on the 4th. And he did, and his wife's words were, "No doctor, nothing more." And a couple hours later in Massachusetts, John Adams, he was dying from heart failure. He was 90 years old. And John Adams' wife's words were, "Thomas Jefferson survived," because he didn't know his buddy Jefferson died, so he thought he was alive. But anyways, both of them died on July 4, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, or the United States of America independence. And then both of them created the Declaration of Independence, so they died 50 years later on the day they created. So yeah. But now let's talk more about Thomas Jefferson presidency later. So in 1803, pretty much a lot of people know this. So Thomas Jefferson, he won New Orleans, which is in modern day Louisiana. He won New Orleans because whoever controlled New Orleans controlled the entire Mississippi River. And now the U.S., they were squeezed by Spain, the French, the British, they didn't have much room, so they want some territory, they want more power, of course. So Thomas Jefferson sent 2 diplomats, and one of them was James Monroe, I believe, to France, because New Orleans or the Louisiana. So, darn it. So let me rephrase this. So, the west of the United States of America is the Louisiana Territory, which won't belong to the Spanish, but now belong to the French. And so Thomas Jefferson, he wants New Orleans because whoever controlled New Orleans controlled the entire Mississippi River pretty much. So he sent two diplomats, and I think one of those diplomats were actually James Monroe, and they went to France to talk to Napoleon Bonaparte, which was at that time the emperor or the leader of France, you can say. People don't really know how to describe Napoleon because he wasn't really a king, or he was, I guess he was an emperor, but anyways, he was the leader of France. So these two diplomats Thomas Jefferson sent were trying to make a deal with Napoleon of buying New Orleans, and their budget was $10 million. And the point the thing is, he was having troubles, his country was having troubles, because, they have been a lot of wars with the Napoleon Wars. They had Haiti, that was not a country, but belonged to them, and there was like slavery issues in Haiti, I guess, and there was like I guess you can call it the Revolution War from Haiti, and the French got beat twice by Haiti. So there will be and Napoleon and French dreams to make an empire in America failed. So when we offered him New Orleans for $10 million, he was like, "How about I give you all of it, like the entire Louisiana territory, which it contains modern day 15 states and part of Canada also." Um, and he offered to give the entire Louisiana territory for $15 million. So we bought it, obviously, and that made the United States of America way more bigger now, have more control for trade because they have control over the Mississippi River. And these 15 states will become Louisiana, Arkansas, I think Illinois, more of part of Wisconsin, part of Minnesota, North and South Dakota, Iowa, part of Oklahoma, I think the entire state of Oklahoma, part of Texas. I can go on and on, but yeah, that was a massive deal for us. And Thomas Jefferson, he sent two explorers named Lewis and Clark to do the Lewis and Clark expedition to see what the heck we just bought, and there were mountains, a lot of farmland, so we actually bought it and stuff, finalized the deal. But anyways, we're on in 1803, maybe earlier on actually, but anyways, in 1801, there was a war called Barbary War, or the First Barbary War, where Muslims had taken over modern-day Algeria, Tunisia, and part of Libya, and Morocco was joining these Muslims and fighting Sweden and the Kingdom of Sicily, and in 1802, I believe, they started bombing, not bombing, but attacking American ships and kidnapping sailors. So in 1803, Thomas Jefferson sent our navy to northern Africa, and we crushed the Muslims with Sweden and the Kingdom of Sicily, and later on 1809, the war has officially ended between them and us. So until those were doing it, then that will be making a little more later, but let's see. I can't think about anything else but Stoughton. But anyways, now how about the fourth president, James Madison. James Madison, he's the shortest president in American history. He was about 5'11", and nobody in American president history has been shorter than him. So, but anyways, and also sorry, I know. Okay, so I don't know why I keep need to repeat myself or need to go back, but anyways, the fourth Barbarian War is the fourth major war the United States of America has ever fought in, besides the American Revolution War, and the fourth major war we have ever fought in, although I independent, so that it's interesting. But anyways, James Madison, he's the shortest president in American history. He's 5'11". And another thing that's that so in 1810, 11, 12, there was a little of a strip of territory which was part of Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, and part of Florida, and belonged to Spain, technically. But then these territories, they pretty much gained independence from Spain and from their own country called the Republic of West Florida. So James Madison looked at this little strip of land, and he was like, we need that land because he claimed that there should have been a territory of ours from the Louisiana Purchase. That was that was called when we bought the Louisiana territory, the Louisiana Purchase. So he sent in our soldiers to invade the Republic of West Florida, and the Republic of West Florida, it was a country for about 90 days, so it didn't last very long. Anyways, so the British, from like in 1812, the British still attacking our American ships, like our commercial ships, and kidnapping our sailors to join the British Navy because the British still in another war with the French. So they were kidnapping our sailors, and British was telling us to not trade with French because, they don't talk about each other. So, everybody was like, we gain independence from you, stop bullying us, we can trade with whoever we want. And the British won't listen. Now, this ended up to start the war called the War of 1812. That's what people say. To be honest, I don't believe it. I'm going to explain it. Since Thomas Jefferson was president, which by the way he went for 2 terms, we wanted Canada, which was a British territory. We wanted Canada. And James Madison, he also wanted Canada to join us, join our country. So, the War of 1812, for how it started, I feel like it's kind of confusing to explain it to me because I don't really know it does. Anyways, another that started the War of 1812, or led to the start of the War of 1812, is that not only the British were kidnapping our sailors and attacking our ships, and we wanted Canada, there were also army giving money, giving guns and military weapons to Native Americans that were fighting us, especially ones in Florida. So so in 1812, James Madison declared war on the British Empire, and he is the first ever president to declare war on a foreign country. And this is our fourth, not our fourth major war, but one of the fourth major wars, like wars that wasn't like across the ocean, that was important to pay attention to, I guess you can say. I don't know how to explain this. So I know I'm bad at explaining history, sorry. But anyways, so we marched into Canada to take it over, but the British, they were being, it was gonna be harder than we all thought. Now, both sides saw that this will not go last long, but the thing is, both sides were wrong, because the Native Americans that the British were army, they were attacking us, so we had to deal with the British and the Native Americans. So, yeah, this war was brutal. It killed about 20 to 25,000 Americans. With the American Revolution War killed about 25,000 Americans. The Fort Barbarian War killed about 900 Americans or 300 Americans, I believe. But this war was finally ended in 1815, but in 1814, in August of 1814, there was a battle between us and the British were able to won this battle and then marched into Washington, D.C., and they burned the White House down. They burned Washington, D.C. down, the Department of War, Congress down, everything down. Now, they only had control for Washington, D.C. for about a day or two because of a storm. We think it's a tornado, but we actually don't know for sure. That kind of destroyed their formation, so they retreat, but the damage was already done to us. But later on September 11, 1814, about a month later, after Washington, D.C. was burned down, they boarded the ships at Baltimore because they wanted to invade Baltimore because there was a military fortress, American military fortress in Baltimore, and both sides knew if the British won this battle and take over this fortress, the British will pretty much invade the entire country of America. So we will try our best to make sure the British will not pass. And after like 20 or 30 American soldiers died and about 42 British soldiers died from the Battle of Baltimore. That's why they for about 2 or 3 days. And that ended on September 14, 1814, or September 13, 1814, around that time. And we ultimately won the Battle of Baltimore, but barely. But and later on, introduction, he was reading a couple of rebels, I think, and he was a Daniel, and he crossed the British in final major battle of the War of 1812. But then in 1815, the War of 1812 officially ended because we both signed a peace treaty. But yeah, and so no one, if you think about it, no one really won this war, because we won Canada, but we weren't able to get Canada. But at the same time, the British, they were invading us, but they weren't able to invade us. So now, if you ask me of who overall won, it's definitely us, but we barely won that war. Like, we barely made it out alive for that war, but then we kind of ultimately won the War of 1812. Now, we're on in 1815. The Second Barbarian War was happening because those Muslims, they were attacking our ships and then, so the Second Barbarian War happened. And when we got involved, the Second Barbarian War lasted for 3 days when we got involved. And about 300 American soldiers died or sailors died. and this is the shortest war in American history. So we defeated the Muslims in Northern Africa from the Second Barbarian War. We caused them in the first one and the second one. So, we caused the Muslims in both of those wars. But, okay. Okay, later on, the fifth president became president, and he was James Monroe, the same one that helped us in the American Revolution War, the same one that helped us with the Louisiana Purchase. So he was a not bad of a president. For more notably, he signed the Monroe Doctrine, where pretty much kicked out Europeans from colonizing like the Americas, so that means we can expand and both Europeans and us don't have to worry about them. So we will be in peace with Europe for probably, I think, for a couple of years. Probably a couple of decades actually. We were in peace with Europe. So, anyways, that pretty much is for this Monroe. I know I need to do more research on all these presidents, but I will one day, I promise. But now let's see. Okay. So now let's move on to the sixth president, John Quincy Adams. I'm going to try to get a little more faster because this video is already a little too long. But anyways, so the sixth president, John Quincy Adams, he's the son of the second president, John Adams. And he's then by John Quincy Adams. He went for 2 terms in war, and I think both of the elections, he won for his 2 terms. He was fighting against Andrew Jackson, which was a Daniel. And by the way, sorry, while James Monroe was president, we invaded Florida, and at the time Florida was part of Spain. Andrew Jackson, he was a Daniel of our military, and he was in Florida, and he demolished the Spaniards and the natives, and Florida, we got Florida. And with so John Quincy Adams, the first 2 times he did elections for like his 2 terms, he was running up against Andrew Jackson, which was one of our major military generals in history, and he was trying to become president, and he failed twice, but he will later on become president. I'll explain that later on. So John Quincy Adams, he's the first president to be a son of another president, because one then he was the son of the second president, John Adams, or one of the sons of John Adams. But another about John Quincy Adams is that he's the first president that we have a surviving picture of him. So, all other presidents are paintings of them, but he's the first president to have a picture taken of him. And not all wasn't color-wise, but the actual picture. And now there was another president of William Henry Harrison, but we can't find it. It didn't survive, quote unquote. But yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think about something else about John Quincy Adams before I move on. Well, if I remember something, I don't think I'm going to mention it. I do remember some stuff, but I'm not going to mention it in this video. Maybe another video. But anyways, later on in the election of 1828, Andrew Jackson, he finally won an election. In 1829, he became the President of the United States of America. He became the 7th president. And Andrew Jackson, he's the first and only president that paid off the national debt. For the first and only time, the national debt was $0. 0 cents, $0. No money. Our national debt was 0. that's the fourth and only time that has ever happened. But another introduction did expect why during his presidency. He won for 2 terms, by the way. Um, he also kind of not demolished, but like he didn't work the second national bank of the U.S. So he kind of not take all their money. I don't want to say it. I don't know how to explain it on it. Anyways, I'm gonna move on to more into stuff about him. So, before he was even president, I already mentioned a bit about his military experience. But before he was president in 1806, I believe, it has been a while since I researched about him. Couple months since I researched about him, so it kind of blurry right now. But around 1806, introduction, this person was assaulting his wife Rachel, introduction wife Rachel Jackson. So introduction telling this guy to do, and the guy he sued introduction in the test, and introduction he was bleeding about it, but he slowly pulled his gun out and killed the guy with one shot. And not only that, the bullet he had in his chest, he kept it in his chest for the rest of his life. And another crazy part is, he had a couple other bullets inside his body, and he kept those bullets for the rest of his life until he died. So yeah, he was something else. But also, I think why he was president, somebody in Congress sent somebody. But anyways, while you're introduction was president, somebody died from Senate or Congress, some kind of part of the government. So introduction, he went to the funeral, and after the funeral was over, he was, I think, going back to the White House or his home from the train station, and someone behind him, which was a royal, I believe. Oh crap. Was it though this guy was a royal, or maybe the last guy was royal? I don't. Anyways, this guy which was behind Andrew Jackson, he pulled a gun out and shoot Andrew Jackson, but then the gun misfired, so he pulled out the second gun, and the gun also misfired. So Andrew Jackson, which he was in his 60s when this happened, he went up to the guy with his wooden cane and beat him up. And people had to pull Andrew Jackson and the police that were trying to kill him away from each other, so Andrew Jackson wanted to kill him. So he was even when he was a little older, he was still crazy. And also my favorite part, I think my favorite part about Andrew Jackson is that he had this pet parrot. Apparently this parrot was for his wife, but I think she died. She died a couple weeks before he became president, actually. But anyways, he has this parrot. Oops, sorry. Not go for okay. Anyways, he had this pet parrot, and he cursed a lot, you can imagine. So when this parrot was near him, this parrot also cursed. Now, when introduction died in 1846 or 1848, I forgot what year he died in, but anyways, his funeral, I think it was 1846 when he died. Anyways, during his funeral, the parents were there, and family and friends were there at the funeral, and the parents, it was getting overwhelmed by with how many people there were. So it started cursing so loudly and so much that it was kicked out of the funeral. So maybe that's comedic stuff to you guys. But anyways, I did want to mention something introduction they do and was awful. I think everyone can agree this was awful. So during his second term. Either way, while he was president, he signed the Indian Removal Act, which was the Trail of Tears, where thousands of Native Americans were forced to leave their homes that have been there for centuries now, and they moved to Oklahoma, and which was a U.S. territory kinda, but a U.S. territory the government didn't really care about. So, and thousands of them, while they were on this trail to go to Oklahoma, thousands of them died from getting sick or starving, and we had our soldiers pretty much following them to make sure they don't do anything dumb. I, I'm pretty sure our soldiers I don't want to say any of our soldiers attacking these Native Americans during the trail because I don't know if this is true or not, but yeah, I just want to mention that. But then when later on, when Andrew Jackson's second term ended, his vice president, Martin Van Buren, becomes the 8th president. And Martin Van Buren, he's the first president that, English wasn't his first language. His first language was Dutch because his ancestors, they were, his family was born in Netherlands and they moved to Americas, and he was born in America, so his first language was Dutch and his second language was English, so I thought that was interesting. And he ran for one term. He tried to run for a second term, but he lost. But anyways, next up is the 9th president, William Henry Harrison. Now, William Henry Harrison, he was a military then, I believe. He was serving in the military a couple times before, most notably during the War of 1812. But anyways, he becomes the 9th president, and he's the first president to die while in office. And he had the shortest presidency in American history. He served about 30 days. 30 to 31 days. Yeah, 31 days when he died. So he wasn't president for long because a couple weeks before during his inauguration, he did a speech, and his speech was about 2 to 3 hours long, and was rainy, and the rain was freezing cold, and he was wearing no coat, and he was in his 60s, so with him not wearing coat, and with his old age, and with it being little cold, he got pneumonia, and 2-3 weeks later, he passed away on April 1, 1835, or something like that. But anyways, his vice president, Don Towell, became the 10th president because, people don't know, because this never happened before. They don't know what to do if a president dies while in office. Do the vice president replace them, or the vice president become an acting president, or somebody else become president? But Don Towell, he becomes the 10th president. And people don't talk like him because the American Civil War was happening, and he was supporting the South of the Confederacy. So when he died, people were happy that he died in 1862. Now, the interesting thing about Don Towell is that he technically did help us annex Texas, which I will explain with more later. And the most interesting thing, I think a lot of people start to know this, Don Towell, he was born in 1790, but he had 2 living grandsons, and his wife's grandson died in May of 2025. So here was this, why and how this happened. So Don Towell, he had 15 kids, no other president had more kids than him. So he had 15 kids, and while he was late, and his wife, like probably a couple years before he was go die, something, he gave father to his last child, and one of his kids became a father at 3 ways and do it to a child, and that kind of created a cycle. The only time that a bug went inside my mouth. anyways, so that's how two of Don Tyrell grandsons died, make it into 2025, and one of them died in May 2025. So right now, both of his grandsons are dead. So, but it's still crazy that I was one of them make it to 2025. Okay, the weapon president, James K. Polk. So, this president, he pretty much the main president, or one of the main presidents that helped us annex Texas, because Texas, they're part of Mexico, and Texas gained independence from Mexico, and this was called the Battle of Alimony. And anyways, James K. Polk, he annexed Texas, because of territory, blah blah blah. And now the Mexicans, they weren't happy about it, and they say if we do this, they'll declare war on us. And James K. Polk, he does annex Texas. But anyways, we also annexed Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, which all called Oregon Territory, which belonged to the British. The reason why we annexed it is because when the Oregon Trail happened, we sent our colonists and people to kind of take over it, and the British, they were mad about it. But then Polk say, give us these territories, pretty much say, give us these territories or there'll be war. And the British, they don't want to have another war with us, because the Tigray used those wars twice and made heavy causes in terms of money and military and lives. Well, so the British signed a deal with us, and we gained Oregon, Washington, Idaho. Now, later on in 1846, we had James K. Polk with Daniel Zachary Taylor, had soldiers at the Mexican and American border, and the Mexicans, they attacked our soldiers. Now, James K. Polk, he purposely sent our soldiers to the border, so because he knew the Mexicans will attack us, and that would give him a perfect excuse to have Congress declare war. And that happened, and Congress did declare war. And what about the war called Mexican-American War, called American-Mexican War? What about 2 years, and in 1848, and we gained Texas, California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, so on and so on. Okay, I'm gonna retry my best to make this quick. So yeah. If I'm not gonna miss some details, like interesting details about the way on president, but I want to get this fit over with. I do not want. Okay, I'm going to stop talking and just explain. So anyways, I'm with on the 12th president, Zachary Taylor. He was a general during the Mexican-American War. He became president, but on July 4, it was hard out, so he went inside for like milk and terriers, and the terriers was dumped. Well, not dumped, but dunked, I guess, into Washington D.C. committed suicidal. Well, not suicidal, but committed suicidal. So Zachary Taylor, he got sick and he died a couple days later. And also, then the 13th president become president, Middle Family, and now went on 14% Franklin Pierce. So on the darn. So there was a winter strip of land of Arizona, New Mexico that still belonged to Mexico, and we want that winter strip of land because we um because there was a gold rush in California because there was a lot of gold in California. So there was a gold rush. Now then it was kind of hard to get all the gold from California to all the other states of Washington DC because there were a lot of mountains. But the strip of Arizona, New Mexico that Mexico has will kind of perfect trail for that. So we bought it with Franklin Pierce and cost us like $15 million and make us the entire 48th world state of the United States of America we know and love today. Now we're on the 15%, James Buchanan. He probably won the worst, maybe the worst president in American history because in 1860, the Confederacy was forming and American Civil War was about to start. But anyways, we're on the 16%, Abraham Lincoln got into office, and the American Civil War happened in 1861. In April of 1861, the bloodiest war in American history, killing over 620,000 Americans. Well, now more than historians say, over 750,000 Americans were killed during the American Civil War. But anyways, in April of 1865, the American Civil War ended, and a couple days later, Abraham Lincoln, he was in his second term, like about a month, well not a month, probably about a month or a week or something, into his second term, and he was at Fort Dearborn of Washington DC, and that when Arthur Dorwich Booth assassinated him, and making Abraham Lincoln the fourth president to be assassinated while in office, and he was also the fourth Republican president. Now, since Abraham Lincoln died, his vice president, Andrew Johnson, became the 17th president, and he was also awful president because he technically created the KKK, technically, but he was being nice to the South and the Confederacy, so that caused a drama. But the great thing about Andrew Johnson is that Alaska, which was a Russian territory, Russia, they were in this war with France and Britain at the Crimean War. And Russia, they were beaten hard from the Crimean War. Lose a lot of money and lives. So they want to sell territory to make money. And they will got Alaska to sell it. And because Russia saw Alaska was a useless piece of land with nothing on it. And they didn't sell it to Canada because at the time Canada was part of the British, and the British was pretty much our enemy. So they will got them us, the United States of America, and sell it to us for $7 million. No, maybe it was $17 million. I believe it was $7 million. But anyways, so now this was a lot of drama with this protest because people in America also will got Alaska as a useless piece of land, as when we don't need that for polar bears and ice. But they were wrong because years later we found gold, oil, and found out there were a lot of fish because Alaska had a massive coastline, so there was a lot of fish there too. So Alaska, ended up being one of the most important and useful states in American history. Well, why now? Also. Now we're on the 18% U.S. Grant. He became president. He was the Daniel during the American Civil War. He's the reason why the Union won against the Confederacy during the American Civil War. But yeah, that's pretty much it for U.S. Grant. I'm trying to go fast here. I don't know if any of you guys understand me during this video because I'm going so fast. I'm sorry about this, but I really want to go fast. I am going to slow down like when we get into more modern day president, like when we get to like World War and something like that. But anyways, later on, the 19th president will be Hayes. He become president. Now we'll move on to the 20th president, then say Garfield. He did 20th president, then say Garfield. He didn't do much because he was killed or shot in like about 4 months of his presidency, and like 2 months later after being shot at a train station, he got 2 bullets hitting him by someone that was mentally ill. He died, so they died, and that makes them say Garfield the second president to die from being shot or assassinated. Now, the 24th president, Testor Aldo, he was vice president of Denton Garfield, and he became president. And if you look at like pictures or paintings about Testor Aldo, he had, you will notice he have a long beard or mustache, so that pretty much what he's known for. So I know he did one thing that Denton Garfield was about to do, but it was about the wedge system. Okay, I remember now. So this wedge system, it pretty much created Testor Aldo, and it's the reason why he's famous. And people didn't expect him to sign the bill about the like pretty much destroying this system that created him. But everyone won. He signed the deal or bill, and pretty much destroyed the same thing that make him popular. But then the 22nd president was Grover Cleveland. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna talk about him here later. But the 23rd president, Benjamin Harrison, he's the grandson of the 9th president, William Henry Harrison. Now Benjamin Harrison, William Henry, but this is the only time this ever happened. There was only one time a grandfather and grandson both became president, and that was William Henry Harrison, his grandson, Benjamin Harrison. So the fourth and only grandfather and grandson presidential duo. Now, and was 24th president was Grover Cleveland then, making Grover Cleveland the fourth president to run for 2 non-executive terms. Now, the 25th president, William McKinley. Anyways, the 25th president, William McKinley, he was a good president, I would say, because while he was president in 1898, there was Hawaii. Hawaii, they were pretty much their own country, you can say, called the Kingdom of Hawaii. And we went over there, took it over and killed the queen, the king, and all that wonderful stuff, and take over Hawaii. Now, later that same year, in 1898, one of our ships got destroyed. Now, people think it was another country, but I think it was from a manufacturing issue, but, well, I haven't worked much into it, but anyways, people started accusing Spain, and we declared war on Spain and started the Spanish-American War. And the fighting started in April of 1898 and ended in August of 1898, and the war officially ended in December of 1898, and one of the shortest wars in American history, besides the Second Barbarian War. Oh well, yeah. But the fourth is the shortest major war in American history. But then there's in 1902, William McKinley, he was in his second term, barely, and he got shot. So his vice president, Theodore Roosevelt, was a military general during the Spanish-American War. And by the way, when the Spanish-American War ended, we gained Cuba, Philippines, Puerto Rico, and Guam. And later on, in 1902, we let Cuba gain independence because they weren't independent. Now, we went to war with the Philippines because they also want independence, but we won't let them, causing the Philippine-American War, and we did horrific war crimes against them. It was awful. But in 1902, the Philippine-American War ended, but there was still some guerrilla warfare between rebels and us. But finally, we decided to let Philippines get independent, but World War II delay died. But finally, on July 4, 1946, Philippines become their own country. But and we still have Puerto Rico and Guam to this day as U.S. territories. But then when still the World Belt, we was vice president for William McKinley, and was Daniel during the Spanish-American War. He became president and William McKinley was out. So it's now the 26th president. Now Theodore Roosevelt in 1903. Panama, which was part of Colombia, they were trying to get independent from Colombia, and we helped Panama to get independent from Colombia, and we not how we could take over Panama, but we pretty much did, and created the Panama Canal, where the French was trying to die, but we ended up creating the Panama Canal in 1903, and we had control over it for a couple of decades until Jimmy Carter, which was not a good president. He was a good guy and a good soldier, but he was a good president. Gave up the Panama Canal. But anyways, next up is the 27th president, William Howard Taft. Now, William Howard Taft, he's the fattest president in American history. He weighed over 300 pounds. Now, there's a rumor myth about him, about the bathtub at the White House, and he got stuck in that bathtub. Now, we actually don't know if this is true or not. I don't think it's true, but the kids that did happen, the White House did install a bathtub that can fit 4 people in. Those are the kids that do happen. Now, the 28th president, Woodrow Wilson, I think he was bad president because he kind of created the income tax, and he didn't, and he tagged our soldiers, I believe. Well, I'm not gonna get into that, but anyways, his slogan was "Keep us at war," because in 1914 World War I was over, but the thing is, since like 1915, Germany was attacking our American ships, not like our military ships, the civilian ships, carrying hundreds of civilians and a couple of our soldiers and stuff. Well, I don't know. Anyways, so in 1917, the United States of America finally got involved into World War I. In 1918, World War I finally ended, but in 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was signed with the Central Powers or the Allied powers like French, British, and the Americans, pretty much make Germany suffer, I guess you can say. Like make Germany lose all their overseas colonies, make sure Germany did not have an air force or navy, and lose some of their territory and some of their population. And Germany, they had a couple of crises and so on, and kind of led to World War II. I will explain that here later. But anyways, later on, we had the 29th president. Oh crap, who was he again? I forgot the 29th president. Who was he? Oh. Okay, I don't remember who the 29th president was. I'm pretty sure it was Warren Harding. But then when he called the Teapot Dome scandal, it pretty much steal money from us. Well, from the government, and yeah, people don't like him. But Warren Harding, he's the first president that traveled to all 50 states of the United States of America. He traveled from every 50 states. I think even Alaska, Hawaii, before Alaska and Hawaii became states, but they were still territories. Blue, but he died in California from like a stroke. Now, him and his wife, they were both in bed, and his wife was reading the newspaper and was talking about him, and he was like, go on, read some more, and he died from stroke. So, it's interesting. But then was the Georgia president. Yeah, he is the Georgia president, Calvin Coolidge. He had to be a good president because while he was in office, I think he went for 2 terms actually. While he was president in the 20s, from like 1921 to 1929, there was the Roaring Twenties, where America was rich, there were no wars, America was involved in whatsoever. Our economy was great, everyone had money, everyone can buy anything under his presidency, so that was good. Now, 1929, the Great Depression happened all over the planet. People think it's only American did. Nope, it's not only American that did it everywhere. And some places it was more wars, especially in Germany, which kind of went to World II because Germany had millions of Germans lose their jobs and had Germany in crisis. But anyways, America, they were in crisis, and pretty much the reason why the Great Depression started because during the Roaring Twenties, people were buying stupid things, and that kind of led to the Great Depression. And the Great Depression, everything got way more expensive. A lot more expensive back then, and it does seem expensive to us, but back then it was really expensive to them. People starve. I think a couple people actually die from. I can imagine some people die from it because they were starving. But then when Leopold II, the 34th president, he was president during the Great Depression, and people they were blaming him for it. With you can have your own opinion on that. I don't care, but he is the first president born in Iowa, so I thought that cool. But and make him the first president apparently. I don't think that's 100% true, but the first president born from the west of the Mississippi River. So yeah, okay, now 32nd president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Okay, so Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he is the first and only president that went for more than 2 terms. He didn't win for 3 terms, he went for 4 terms. Now the reason why he was able to is because, so George Washington, he went for 2 terms, right? Now, the reason why every single president after George Washington went for 2 terms, now some did try to win 3, but anyway, the reason why other presidents went for 2 terms after George Washington because to be respectful, and George Washington went for 2 terms, so why should I went for 2 terms, not 3 terms, the 2 terms. So that's pretty much what happened with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. It wasn't exactly a wall when Franklin Delano Roosevelt became president 4 times. So he was president for 12 years straight in a row. So yeah, and he had polio, which means he was in a wheelchair, but when he was in public, he didn't appear in a wheelchair because, that was people, politics and stuff. When they have an issue with the health, they don't want to make it public. Probably the reason why is because, they don't want the public to panic. I can imagine. But anyways, while Franklin Delano Roosevelt was president, he did try to make the Great Depression better for us, more easier, but he pretty much made it worse. Now, while he was president on September 1, 1931, World War II started. but America we won't involve, but we will give in supplies like weapons, money, I think food and medical stuff the to Great Britain. But funny, but Japan or the Japanese Empire or Emperor Japan, they will colonizing countries like China, attacking China, Taiwan. Well, Taiwan was China at the time, and well, and when Japan attacked China in 1936, um, America, well, one time, America pretty much cut Japan off their oil supply and make Japan lose about 90% of the oil supply. So Japan, they were struggling with the oil, so they were starting to attack Southeast Asia for oil. And finally, America was getting with them mad Japan, but since America wasn't letting Japan by taking the oil from Southeast Asia, Japan finally decided on December 7, 1941, they attacked us and they attacked Pearl Harbor, and killed about, well, over 2,000 Americans, and the next day on December 8, 1941, Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Congress declared war on Japan, and a couple days later, Germany declared war on us. So, on December 7, 1941, we officially got involved into World War II. Okay, so, now, people saw kind of things like Japan on top of Pearl Harbor and that was pretty much it. That's not so true. Not only they invaded Pearl Harbor, they invaded Guam and Philippines were at the time American territories of us, and they invaded part of Alaska and attacked California, Oregon, and Washington. So they did more attacks on us than Pearl Harbor. But anyways, later on, we with the British and kind of the French they already fell to Germany in 1940, but they were still fighting. And also kind technically Poland, but anyways, we attacked Northern Africa because Northern Africa was under Italy and Germany control, and we pretty much kicked both of them out of Africa and started attacking Italy and invaded Italy. And finally, on June 6, 1944, the Allies, like the French, the British, the Americans, mostly the Americans and the British, they did D-Day or Normandy, and they landed on a couple of beaches, and both sides knew this was gonna be bloody. But anyway, the Allies invaded Normandy of France, and we did lose a lot of bodies. Both sides did, but we ended up crossing the Dormant and making an advantage into France and into Germany, walking to Belgium. Netherlands workable because because France workable, Belgium and Netherlands were part of Germany, and we kind of kicked Germany out of those countries and we got into Germany. Now, during World War II, the Soviet Union, they were involved in World War II because Germany invaded Soviet Union in 1941. And the Soviet Union, they were making progress into Germany and got to Berlin. And so Germany, they were in a two-sided war, and Italy, it was defeated already. So Germany already lose their ally. They all in two-sided war, their military is destroyed. And Adolf Hitler, the leader, or the mustache man, or the Austrian painter, he was in his bunker and he got married to his fiancée or girlfriend Eva, and I think the next day on April 30, 1945, while Dallas was pushing to Germany and Berlin, he shot himself and his bunker. And couple days later, Germany surrendered. Now, before we talk about Japan, Kabul, I think about 2 weeks old, well, maybe about a week or about a week and a half old, frequent down the Roosevelt killed posing for like a portrait or painting or picture of himself, and I think he got stroke and he died. And so frequent down the Roosevelt, he didn't see the victory we did in Germany. So, yeah. Now his vice president, Harry Truman, he became president, the 33rd president. And Germany surrendered. So now we have to deal with Japan. Now the Soviet Union invaded part of Japan that was controlling China, and now the U.S. they were still fighting Japan hard. Now the U.S. they know Japan is fighting pretty hard, and Japan repeatedly say that they could fight until the right man arrive. So, and America, they already invaded tiny islands of the Pacific that Japan invaded, and Japan fought hard and with a lot of people. America with a lot of people because these tiny islands and territories. So America knew they were kind of doing full-on ground invasion, but not really. They knew they could make into an actual ground invasion of Japan. They would win, but the thing is, they would lose a lot of lives in progress. So the United States of America, they have been making nuclear weapons or atomic bombs, very powerful bombs and weapons. And Harry Truman, he had to make the choice: either invade Japan and lose a lot of lives, or drop these bombs on Japan and end World War II and don't lose too many lives. So Harry Truman made the choice, and August of 1945 we dropped a bomb on Hiroshima, and a couple days later, 3 days later, we dropped another atomic bomb on Nagasaki. And now, with other things Japan was facing, the final surrender on September 2, 1945, World War II ended. World War II killed 85 million people, the bloodiest war in human history. The second bloodiest war in American history behind the American Civil War, because World War II killed over 400,000 Americans. So, but okay, so anyways, in 1950, Soviet Union they take over North of Korea, and we take over South of Korea. And 1950, North Korea under the Soviet Union communism invaded South Korea, and we got involved in that started the Korean War. And the Korean War, they were back and forth. China got involved, and finally, 1950, both sides, 1953, both sides signed a deal, kind of a peace treaty, and the Korean War ended in 1953. And later on, the Vietnam War was happening between France and Vietnam, because Vietnam was getting independent from France because Vietnam was part of France. And that caused something, I think, in the 60s. We got involved, and in the 70s, we pretty much surrendered, and we lose the Vietnam War, the fourth war we ever lost. And by the way, my grandpa, he actually served in the Vietnam War. Not exactly like a ground soldier, like a foot soldier. He did was in one of the guards of the guard towers, defending bases from enemies. So, anyways, I don't want to mention that real quick. But anyways, Harry Truman, he was president during the Korean War, but his presidency, he went for 2 terms, I believe. His presidency ended during the Korean War, and Dwight Eisenhower became the 34th president, and he was a general during World War II. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I have been talking for way too long now. Okay, sorry, I'm way too tired. Anyways, but then when towards the outside of me, stopping President Franklin, and that was the 35th president, John F. Kennedy. So, the only thing about during John F. Kennedy's term, there was the Cold War, because the Cold War started in shortly after World War II. It happened in 1946, 47, around that time, and then 1991. I will mention that more later. And the Cold War was not exactly a war, but there was an arms race, and see who had the better weapons, so who had the better military, the stronger military, the stronger weapons, who can actually win a war, like the Vietnam War, the Korean War, and more wars, and was between the United States of America and the Soviet Union, which is now modern day Russia. During Donald Kennedy's term in 1961, the CIA let Donald Kennedy know that they were going to do a mission or invasion on Cuba, because Cuba had Fidel Castro as the leader, and the U.S. wanted to get rid of Fidel Castro out of Cuba. So in 1961, Kennedy pretty much approved the mission. The Bay of Pigs invasion happened and failed miserably. And not only we failed that mission, a year later, 1962, a U.S. spy plane was going over Cuba and found that Soviet Union was placing nukes in Cuba 90 miles off the coast of Florida, and can hit Washington D.C., New York City, Chicago within minutes. So this was a big problem. So Donald Kennedy, he had a naval blockade around Cuba, so the Soviet Union wanted to place more weapons inside Cuba and give us time to make a deal with the Soviet Union. And the leader of the Soviet Union at the time was Khrushchev. So we were trying to make a deal, and one day, and during this, and this was called the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is the closest we have ever been to World War III ever. I mean, that was modern day historians say, but I can't agree with them. But that was so one day there was some Soviet submarine going towards our ships, and a like a attack plane of us were doing not attack shots, but like warning shots saying they need to go away pretty much and go away from ships. Now the people in that submarine, they thought World War III already started. They thought the United States of America and Soviet Union are in war already, and they had a nuke in the submarine. They were ready to launch it. Now, 3 major officers need to allow this nuke to launch. Now, 2 or 3 officers let this happen, but 1 officer refused to let this nuke be launched, because he said maybe we are wrong about this. Maybe we need to get into contact with Moscow to make sure we have the authority to actually do this. And they all agree, and the submarine went over the water and get in contact with Moscow, and no nukes, no missiles were launched. And that was good then. Well, awfully good then, but later on, the Soviet Union, the United States of America make a deal, and the Soviet Union nukes would pull out of Cuba, and we secretly pull our nukes and weapons out of Turkey. So, that was deal. Now, a year later, on November 22, 1963, John F. Kennedy, he was assassinated in Dallas, Texas by Lee Harvey Oswald. And Lee Harvey Oswald was assassinated 2 or 3 days later by Ruby, his name was? Ruby Ridge, I think? I forgot his name, I know his name was Ruby. I can't remember what his full or last name, but I can't remember what the other name, but anyways, Donald Kennedy vice president, when J.B. Johnson became the 36th president, and I'm just going to skip him. Now we'll talk about the 37th president, Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon, he opened trade with China, which I think is a stupid decision, but anyways, he did other stuff, I can't think those stuff right now, but Watergate happened, and it forced him to resign, making him the fourth and only president to resign. Now, since he resigned, his vice president, Bill Ford, he became president, and I'm just going to skip him. There is an indirect story. Well, I'm going to tell the story. So, on the DMZ, or the demilitarized military zone, I think it was called, the North and South Korean border, which was made after the Korean War, and when the Korean War ended in 1953. Now, on the border, there's this tree that the U.S. and South Korea want to cut down, and don't seem like a big deal to them. So America and South Korea, they sent a couple lumber dogs to cut down this tree on the border. Hold on. Okay. Anyways, so there was this tree on the DMZ, the North and South Korean border, and the U.S. and South Korea want to cut this tree down. So they sent lumber dogs to the in August of 1976 to in August of 1976 to cut down. But then the North Koreans, they want us to cut this tree down, so they sent their soldiers and they killed 2 of soldiers. So after that, the U.S. military, they were mad about this because not only they weren't able to cut down the tree, but they was 2 soldiers. So the U.S. military sent a document or paper for President Bill Ford to sign, and not only the U.S. so continue to try to cut down the tree, but cut down with so much amount of force that the North Koreans don't want to mess with us. So therefore signed this paper, and we did it. So the U.S. sent over 30 lumber dogs to cut down this tree, but we sent over 800 soldiers to the border, all over the border, to watch the North Koreans to see if they would do some stuff to us. And South Korea, they sent some their soldiers to the border and sent a fighter jets over, kind of flying over the border, and we sent our B-52 bombers, and these B-52 bombers were capable of nukes, and was flying over the border, and we also sent our aircraft carrier right pretty much over the coast where they can see it, and we saw cut down the tree, and North Korea sent about over 150 soldiers to the border, but they stay on their side of the border. Now, the thing is, the U.S. realized that it take much more longer than they saw to cut down this tree. So they decided to cut off all these of the bent branches off, and after it take 40 minutes, they pack up their stuff and left. Now the North Koreans, they were shocked about that. They did not expect us to do this. I don't think anyone will expect us to do something like that. And we did it 2-3 days after the 2 soldiers were killed by North Korea. Darn it. I got some extra protein. If I went in, the second time I went inside my mouth. Sorry. Anyways, so we almost went to war with North Korea, and technically the Soviet Union and China, because North Korea was over here in China, Iowa. So we almost went to war with North Korea over tree. So I thought that was crazy. But then let's move on to the hold on. Let's move on to the 39 president, Jimmy Carter. Now, my opinion, Jimmy Carter, he's one of the worst presidents in American history. He is a good person. He is a good guy. I'm not saying he's a bad guy or horrible person. He is a good guy, but he was a bad president. So I'm just gonna move on to the 40 president, Ronald Reagan. So I'm not gonna go much into detail with Ronald Reagan because one thing, I'm almost done with this video, but anyways, Ronald Reagan, he became president in 1981 until 1989 because he ran for 2 terms. And he has been one of the best presidents in American history because while he was president, our military defense went up. We got stronger under his presidency, and the Cold War kind of pretty much ended because of him. Like the Berlin Wall fell while he was president, pretty much because of him. So yeah. Next up is the 44th president, George H.W. Bush, which went for 1 term, and is one of Ronald Reagan's vice president, and until while he was president in December of 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, ending the Cold War. So George H.W. Bush was president when the Cold War ended. But anyways, also while he was president in 1989, I believe, we invaded Panama because there were drugs going to Panama. So we invaded Panama to counter the dictator to stop those drugs coming through Panama to heal. And we did that, and we started with our mission in 1990. Started in December of 1989 and ended in January of 1990. Now later on in 1990, in Middle East, Iraq under Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and they invaded Kuwait within 2 days. They invaded Kuwait pretty much because of oil. So in 1990, George H.W. Bush sent out soldiers there to take Iraq out of Kuwait because of oil. In 1991, and that led to the Gulf War, the Persian Gulf War. And 1991, the Gulf War ended, and about 900 Americans died. And I think George H.W. Bush, I think he was a good president. But I don't agree with everything he done, of course, but I think he was a good president. But that was, it's the 42nd president, Bill Clinton. Now, although when Bill Clinton was president, our economy was doing good, actually. Now, it could be because of Bush, sorry. It could be because of Bush or Clinton, but then when Bill Clinton was president during his 2 terms, our economy was great, but then during his 2nd term, he was caught having an affair with 22-year-old intern Monica Lewinsky, and that kind of got him impeached by the Senate. And by the way, Bill Clinton, he's not the 4th president that got impeached. Andrew Johnson, the 17th president, the president I mentioned earlier, he got impeached. He's the 4th. Andrew Johnson, the 17th president, is the 1st ever president who got impeached. So Bill Clinton, the 2nd president that got impeached, and the 4th president who got impeached since Andrew Johnson, and the 4th president who got impeached by Senate. Now, Bill Clinton, he wasn't kicked out by Senate or Congress, but when his 2nd term ended, he was done. Well, when the Monica Lewinsky scandal broke out, he was done. His presidency career was pretty much over. But then in 2001, after his 2nd term ended, George W. Bush became the 43rd president, and he is the son of the 44th president, George H.W. Bush, and making him and his father the 2nd father and son president duo, and the 4th president of George Sanders and John Adams and John Quincy Adams. Anyways, while those three boys were president, on September 11, 2001, 9/11 happened. Well, Al-Qaeda terrorist group created by Osama bin Laden hijacked a plane and crashed planes into the World Trade Center, the Northern Southern Towers and other places, and quote-unquote the Pentagon. And so on October 7, 2001, about a month later after these terrorist attacks happened, the United States of America went into Afghanistan because of what we think Osama bin Laden was at, but the Taliban was giving a safe haven for Laden and Al-Qaeda. But anyways, in 2002, those three boys did like this thing or like slogan called the what was it called? I forgot it. The Degrees of Evil, or I forgot what it was called. Anyways, these were about Iran, Iraq, and North Korea. Like, these were the top three countries that were the biggest threat to the United States of America and Western civilization. Finally, on March 17, 2003, those three boys. So there was some drama between the U.S. and Iraq because, they were in wars in the past, but not only that, those three boys was claiming that, his agent Stanton was claiming that Iraq had horrible weapons that can terrorize the entire planet and even had nukes. So on March 17, 2003, those three boys get on the TV station, the Live TV, and announced to Saddam Hussein saying him and his sons need to leave in the next 48 hours or the U.S. will do full force. In other words, the U.S. will invade Iraq. And March 19 went by and Saddam Hussein did not leave. So on the next day, March 20, 2003, the United States of America military launched couple operations like Operation Iraq Freedom. And by the way, the Gulf War, it had the operation called Operation Desert Storm. Now this operation for the Iraq War 2003 was called Iraq Freedom and Sargon A to do big support attack. So the U.S. military immediately rained down with missiles, most notably Tomahawk missiles on Baghdad, the capital of Iraq, destroying any kind of military Iraq had. And March 20, 2003, the U.S. went inside of Iraq with British and Canadian soldiers and a couple other soldiers. And within 3 weeks, the U.S. captured Baghdad and tore down Saddam Hussein's statue. And a couple months later, Saddam Hussein was founded. A couple years later, he was hanged. Now, the Iraq War went way too long than supposed to because we can't mind our own business. And finally, the Iraq War, which started in 2003, officially ended in 2011. Now, the 44 President Barack Obama. So Barack Obama, he's the first and so far only president that was born out of the 48 states, like Alaska and Hawaii. He was born in Hawaii. And he's, quote unquote, the first African American president. And while Barack Obama was president, he created Obamacare, and he while he was president, we killed Osama bin Laden, which Osama bin Laden was in Pakistan. So, but anyways, but the war in Afghanistan was still going on. Anyways, so the war in Afghanistan finally ended in 2021 and the longest war in American history because it lasted about 20 years. So that. And Canada, the British were helping us, but yeah, it was a whole mess. We were never there longer than we should have, but that was when we not reach surrender, but I think we never did surrender. What be real here, and we loved Afghanistan, and the Taliban invaded the Afghan government, and yeah. Anyways, later on 2017, or was it 2017? Yeah, 2017. The 45th president, Donald Trump, or whatever. He became. Sorry, I was. Sorry. If you like Trump, I like Trump too, but hold on. I thought I thought we were thinking about something. I'm not trying to get political here. I don't know. I don't know. I thought start thinking about stuff, but then when Donald Trump became the 45th president, and I think he was president. Then 46th president was in office, Joe Biden, and he pretty much the one that got us out of Afghanistan, and during 2020 to 2021, 2022, kind of with the 2023, COVID-19 happened, people being a little over the mind, I feel like. But anyways, and now 2024 election happened between Joe Biden, Vice President, Kamala Harris, and Trump, and Trump won, became the 47th president, and Trump is the second president to win 2 non-consecutive terms, the first time that happened since Grover Cleveland, and the second time that ever happened. But and on Trump, I think he's doing okay. I obviously don't agree with everything he does. I mean, don't get me wrong. And the right couple months, he's fine, but he's still a good president. But anyways, I'm not gonna get political. I'm gonna try my best not to. I'm sorry, but I can know what that does say. Anyways, while Trump have been in office so far, in January of 2026, we captured Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, because he was a drug lord in the U.S. And on February 28, 2026, the United States of America and Israel both worked together to launch Operation Epic Fury against Iran, and so far it's been successful. We destroyed the Navy and pretty much disabled their entire military. But right now, both countries are working on a peace deal. So we'll see what's happening next. And one thing, I will post this video on July 4, 2026. I'm recording this video on July 2. So you guys will see this video in about 2 days from now. But then I'm sorry for making this video feel long. Maybe you guys like longer videos. I kind of like longer videos too, but holy crap. But yeah, anyways, the United States of America turning 250 years old this year, and also, I need to show you something. Me and my dad did pull up this flagpole. We have the Iowa American flag up, so that's good. Anyways, we need to remember how this country is the most powerful country on earth and in history, and why it's still exists to this day, because of those founding fathers. Because of George Washington, he led our army during the American Revolutionary War, and he refused to give up, and we won because of him. And the soldiers during the American Revolutionary War, they sacrificed their lives. They see people die. They see people got injured. They got injured. They have mental problems. They because the trauma. That's all. They fight for our country. They fight for our freedom. Not only the American Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Barbarian Wars, Spanish American War, Mexican American War. I forgot to explain the war in Grenada that happened in the 80s. Darn it. But to the people that helped us in the war of Grenada, thank you to all the soldiers that served us, that served in the military from then to now and to the future. Thank you for sacrificing your life for us. Thank you for getting into, and thank you, even though you face a lot of trauma, thank you for keep fighting for us and our freedom. and you're the reason why this country is great and the most powerful country on earth. Now I do want to mention somebody else, God. God, He's our Heavenly Father, our Father. He sent His one and only Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross for us, for our sins, for all of our sins. So who believe in Him shall not perish, but have eternal life. But have eternal life. And because of God, 3 days later, Jesus Christ returned from the dead. And God is the reason why everything we know, love, everything that's good was created. He's the reason why we were created. He was Him and His Son, Jesus Christ. It's the reason I wrote the Savior. It's the reason why we have been saved and are still alive today. And He also the reason why the United States of America is the most powerful country on earth. He led our soldiers. He led those Washington. He led all those standards, all of our presidents during wars. It doesn't matter how you feel about politics, wars. We need to remember to say thank you to those soldiers, thank you to all those standards that solving these wars, thank you to those Washington that helped us during the American Revolution War. Say thank you to all the soldiers that passed the future, and say thank you to God for everything He done for us, for sending His one and only Son to die for us. Forgive us, courage us, and courage everything we know, love, everything that's good. But anyways, die for that fatal. See you guys later.